I have this little game that my previous guest have a question for my next guest. I closed the season 3 with Kiki. Kiki is one.
I know Kiki.
This fun. You know Kiki? Okay, awesome. So she was my last guest in the season finale, and she made a question for you.
Wow, I haven't ever thought about that. So, does everybody always have an answer?
Yes.
Well, I can't be
No
the first
pressure,
person. Yeah, we may have to come back to that one. God.
That's okay. It's a
So,
great
Kiki,
question.
thanks
Great
for
question.
coming up with a hard one.
Hello guys, welcome once again to Bitcoin Podcast. Today is the first episode of season 4. I have been doing the podcast for 2 years, time flies, and thank you for all the support. We have been seeing all the development in El Salvador, the good ones, the bad ones, the grassroots, and also the top bottom and the all the different projects that had been there. Exciting times also in the US and around the world. So we have been covering a lot. I think the first 2 years was mainly focused on giving a lot of, let's say, basic content like Bitcoin 101 for everyone. And we have built that. So now we're going to continue giving more educational content about Bitcoin, but also we will have more contents in the future also related with Bitcoin, but you will see eventually. Anyways, today, this is the third time actually that this person is in the podcast. Fourth one, I think, one that we didn't record, but we just hang out here in Barcelona and we talk, but it could easily have been a podcast because we talk a lot.
It could have been. You're right. We had a good time. That was the long breakfast we had there.
Yeah. So I want to welcome Gary Leland. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on again. I always enjoy talking Bitcoin, and I always enjoy talking with you. So I always enjoy this show.
Thank you very much, Gary. Every time you're here, Bitcoin has evolved somehow. Let's say dramatically since the last time, because since our last chat, President Trump has established the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Senator Loomis is advocating for the US to acquire 1 million Bitcoins. And I want to dive into a bit all of that a bit later. But exciting times in the US, apparently, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. If you'd have said even just 3 years ago, Bitcoin would be where it's at today, well, you wouldn't have guessed Bitcoin would be where it's at today just 3 years ago. It has moved so fast. And I'm not even talking just price, which has also moved really fast. I'm talking about, the strategic reserve. The SEC is no longer suing and having, trying to close down all the Bitcoin exchanges or anything to do with Bitcoin. The fact that the government is having a strategic reserve for Bitcoin, but they're just having a reserve for shitcoins so they can sell them and buy more Bitcoin. That's fantastic. That kind of really should show to people that Bitcoins are the future, But yeah, so much has changed so fast that it's mind-boggling.
Absolutely. I have known you since a couple of years ago, and I have learned a lot about you. And we have talked also about your businesses, and I want to start with that. I know that I have asked in the past about your background, but I also want to explore a bit more this time. There's some things that I think when we catch up here in Barcelona were super insightful, and I thought maybe I should share with the people your knowledge. You have built a successful business, excel in sales, and you launched also one of the premier Bitcoin-only conference, Maxi Conference. And so what if we rewind a bit before, Bitcoin and BitBlockBoom, when you're starting out? How old were you when you started your business, and how old were you when you earned your first million?
Well, I don't know how far back you want to go because I probably started my first business at 10 or 11. I mean, so I don't know if you want to go back that far. or if we want to go back to
Up to
like
you.
adult business. But huh?
Up
So
to you,
how?
actually.
Well, I always was trying to start businesses. I lived with where I grew up at was on an island with acres and acres of wooded land behind. So one of my first businesses was going into the wooded land and digging up dogwood trees. And I would dig them up
Really?
and I would plant them in people's yards and sell them to them. I think they all died.
So
I
cool.
mean, I don't think I dug up enough roots. I think they all ended up dying. And so that business was not long lived, and you could only sell so many people so many trees anyway.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of little businesses like that I tried, but I was just a kid trying to make some money, so I didn't have long-term motivation there. I think the first adult business I started was window blinds.
Uh-huh.
And I did really well at that, as a matter of fact. My wife and I actually would do it together, and we would go door to door. We'd go to new neighborhoods being built. Brand new neighborhoods that were being built. I don't know how neighborhoods are in Barcelona, but here, they take a raw piece of land, put in roads, and like 300 houses might go, 400 houses might go in there. One after the other, and there'll be 4 or 5 different companies building homes. So they're moving at a fast pace. So we would drive through those neighborhoods on a regular basis. We had like a route we would do on Monday, a route we would do on Tuesday, Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. And when people move in a house, they can't leave their windows open. So they normally go, what can we put over those windows? And the only thing they have are bed sheets. So they hang bed sheets over their front windows. I mean, they all do it because that's the one thing they all have multiples of that cover windows. And here in Texas, you have big windows, like 6 foot by 6 foot windows across the front of the house. So we would drive down the street looking for sheets on windows. If they had sheets on windows, we'd go up, knock on their door, and sell them mini blinds, the 1-inch blinds when they first came out. This was back in 79, maybe. And we were doing great. You couldn't buy them yet in like the hardware stores or anything like that. So we were just, we were doing it Saturdays and Sundays, and we were making more in 2 days than we were, 5 days a week at our regular jobs. We were like young kids, so we thought this money would never end. We were renting limos to go out at night, and we were just thought this money would never end. And then I quit my job, which was a very good job with a car and blah, blah, blah. Started doing it full time, and then hired a crew of people to do different cities around here. In 81, we probably sold more window blinds than anybody in the state of Texas. I had companies from representatives from China and stuff like that trying to get our business. And so our business costs dropped so much that no one could compete against us. But then, the major giant hardware stores started carrying window coverings, and it destroyed our business because they were even cheaper than we could. And everybody would just go, hey, we're buying a house. Let's go get our blinds. And by the time they moved in, they had them already. So it really killed the base. So we converted into wallpaper and became the largest wallpaper store in Texas. And I think we opened that up in 82, maybe. And we just recently decided we were tired of working. So we sold it just recently. So we had that business for 35 years or so. That was a good business. So that was it. And then in the meantime, I opened up, my kids started playing fast pitch softball. And so I opened up a fast pitch softball store. It was definitely the first one online. Our wallpaper store was the first wallpaper store on the internet. And this was the first girls' fast pitch softball site. Until I opened this website, they either went to baseball sites to buy their stuff or men's slow pitch softball websites. So there were no girls, websites to that. So overnight we became a success, and we did that for quite a while. And COVID kind of destroyed that business because, there was no high schools, no grammar schools, no pro, no college. There was none. And so we finally gave that store. I was tired of working, as I said, so we gave that store away, all the contents, to we couldn't sell it, and we'd lost our lease because the landlord sold the property and they were putting an apartment complex there. So we had a going out of business sale, and gosh, we gave so much stuff. They had to come by in a semi truck to pick up all the stuff we gave to the women's shelter, to use. So, and that was kind of like my history. But once I started doing websites, I started doing a ton of them. I just really got into that, and it seemed such easy money, and we were already prepared for processing the orders, and we did all the shipping in house. We had our own shipping department, our own warehouse to store inventory in, so it was easy. So we started making. I think at one point I keep saying we. That's my wife and I. We had maybe 20 e-commerce sites selling products, and and some of them sold a lot, and some sold very few, but in all reality, it's not that hard to start up an e-commerce site. I mean, you can do it part-time at night and on weekends, as far as this stuff goes to get it going. So, I've told so many people that, and all my friends, none of them ever followed through. It's not that hard to do. And I'm not a coder. I just hired high school kids and college kids to come work for me part-time, and I had like a crew of 4 or 5 of them that worked for me part-time. And the older ones in college that were taking computer science were teaching the younger ones that were high school seniors or college freshmen, how to do it. So, and most of them went on to get great jobs at like Google, Hewlett Packard, places like that. So, I guess it looked good on their resume to boot. And I was real lenient with them. I'd let them off if they had to study for exams or go on a field trip or whatever the heck they had to do. But that was a good business, doing e-commerce. That's a very good business. It's a real good business, as a matter of fact. But that's kind of like my history there, I guess.
That's super awesome. Yeah, I know about the wallpaper, but I didn't know the backstory before that. That's super interesting. Now I know
we also
pivot eventually.
Also, I forgot to, because another big part of my, I guess, world of being an entrepreneur is I started one of the first podcast directories back in 2004. Yeah. And we were, this was way before Apple had podcasts. So that was a good business. And I had a podcasting conference. It was a huge conference. It still existed. I sold my share of it to a company that does conferences. But that was just right timing, being in the right place at the right time, because I was probably one of the first 50 people that actually do a podcast. And
so which one is your, like, for you, which one do you consider like the most successful of all the businesses? The wallpaper one?
Yeah, probably, because it did really good. And then we sold it to our store manager. Because she ran it for us basically, and she couldn't afford to buy it, so we sold it for. I think we get 10% of the gross profits for 20 years or something. So it's a lucrative income, just receiving that check. And gosh, at the age of 70, I'll probably be dead before it's paid off. So for the rest of my life, basically, I have a lucrative income as long as she stays in business. The average business stays in business about 5 years, the average new business. This is an existing business, but it's new to her. So I don't know how that falls, if it's 5 years for new business, but it's been 5 years now. So, and she's still doing good. So I'm hoping it's not the 5 years average business.
Yeah. So I'm asking you because it seems that you're really good at sales. So I'm just wondering that,
I really was a salesman is what everything I did, I was a salesman, and I just made businesses that I could sell the services.
Yeah, because in last season I had someone that is from the Lightning venture, Bitcoin Lightning venture, and we were discussing about the new businesses coming in the Bitcoin space, right? All new companies coming, and she actually gave like a lot of advices and suggestions, because in the end she says, like, remember that even if it is Bitcoin, businesses are businesses, so eventually you have to make profit in it in order to
yeah, that's true. You do have to make a profit. If you don't, you're going to quit doing it for sure. But I think a lot of people, kind of on that note there, I think a lot of people give up too soon. They don't have the endurance to make it, because it's not like everything I ever did immediately was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. BitBlockBoom, for instance, our first conference, we had one sponsor, and this was in 2017 or so, I guess. We had one sponsor, and maybe 25 people bought a ticket, and we had Safedina Moose, we had all these people coming that were coming to the event to speak, and we had sold 25 tickets, and we were going, oh my gosh, these people are going to show up, and there's almost as many speakers as there are people attending. So we were out at night going to meetups and stuff, trying to give away passes. At this point, just to not be embarrassed and to make it worth their time that there were enough people there for them to speak to. And we did okay. Luckily, our one sponsor wanted to pay in Bitcoin, and he took the top sponsorship was $10,000. I don't know how we got one sponsor want to pay $10,000. Any sponsor, even if been the lowest, he'd have been the premier. And Bitcoin was like, gosh, maybe $3,500, $4,000. So I mean, so we did real well. Now, now that time has gone by and we still have the Bitcoin. I had a partner at the time. I'm leading back to what I was talking about with not having the endurance and sticking with it long enough. When that conference was over, we were starting to plan the next year, and my partner basically just said, hey, you know what? I think this is a dead end. We hardly had anybody come. If it wasn't for that one sponsor, we would have lost money on the deal. And I'm just going to give it to you because I just don't want to do it, and I'm busy. Which he was busy. He had another conference he ran. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll take the conference. And so, I kind of feel like he just gave up too soon. And then the next year we had a really good year. We went from maybe 25 paid tickets to maybe 125, and then we got as high as 700, people. And we like to keep it about 5. That's more what we want to be at. 700 was a little bit more than I wanted to have. I want to make it a little more close-knit shape. But like I said, that's an example of giving up too soon. Sometimes people just give up too soon, and you got to stick it. Now, you can't go like so far in debt, but all my businesses have been sweat equity. There's not been a lot of money involved in starting up. And if I'm selling even my retail stores, which I had the wallpaper store, that was the largest wallpaper store in Texas, and the sporting goods store, I just kept putting back a good portion of my products into inventory. I didn't buy all the inventory at one time. I just started rolling. I had a small amount of inventory at one point, and then
so you don't come from a lot of money.
No. We were very poor. I wouldn't say very poor, but we didn't know we didn't have any money. I mean, you don't. If you're a kid, you don't know the difference. But like I got, things like I got maybe one pair of shoes every other year or something. Way different than my kids were raised. That's the answer. But we didn't have a lot of money. Yeah, definitely didn't have a lot of money.
Wow, that's interesting. So, I don't know, what strategies do you employ in all these businesses? Because, for example, the wallpaper is super niche. Like, so.
Well, I like niches. I think I think it's easier to dominate. You can dominate a niche where you're just one of the many in a mainstream thing. Let's go with the sporting goods store. That store catered to fast pitch softball. Girls fast pitch softball.
This is a Gary Leland masterclass, guys, in 1 minute.
But it catered to girls fast pitch softball, which is not only is it softball, it's girls softball. And not only is it girls softball, it's not men's, it's girls. It's fast pitch. It's not slow pitch and fast pitch. It's fast pitch. So girls fast pitch softball. That's pretty much specific to a small thing. But being that niche, we were the number one store for girls fast pitch softball, and people came to, and we ranked high on the internet. I mean, because no one else was going after that target, and everything we had was girls fast pitch softball. We were able to really dominate that field for the first, I'd say, 7, 8 years of business, we've dominated the field. I mean, back when we started it in 2001, there definitely was no one else doing that. And I would get actual phone calls from people every day just going, I just want to let you know how great this website is. I've never seen anything like this. So, and it wasn't that really, they've been playing girls fast pitch softball forever. Just no one thought about making a website for them. So a niche to me is super easy to dominate the field in. And that's what you should go for. And then we started making our own products. We realized this was girls fast pitch softball, not baseball. And to get to it, if it had been baseball, as big as baseball is, I would have been a blimp on the screen. You know what I mean? I'd competing against all that. But we started thinking, or I guess I started thinking, I said, how come there's no pink softball equipment for girls? I mean, you would think that's like a color you see a lot of girls wearing, but there was no pink softball equipment. So I started having the major manufacturers make for me and buying in bulk pink softball equipment. I had pink cleats, pink gloves, fielding gloves, batting gloves, pink uniforms. I had almost everything we sold you could buy in pink, and nobody in the country sold pink because no manufacturers made it, so they didn't sell it. And I was buying this stuff hands over fist. I was buying so much pink that all the manufacturers saw the market, and they all started coming out. About 3 years, they all started coming out with pink, stuff. And while there was enough stuff for one person selling pink softball equipment to really make a lot of money, there wasn't enough people wanting pink softball equipment when you spread it out among the whole, world to make it a big deal. But for like 3 or 4 years there, we just couldn't get enough of that pink stuff. And it was all the major manufacturers that were making it for us. They were like, oh, yeah, we'll make those bat bags for you, but you'll have to buy 500. We're like, done. Send them in here. So we had Adidas. We had a lot of companies making pink stuff for us. So like I said, now pink is a regular thing because every company sells pink equipment. But at the time, it was... So it's weird to say, but I kind of invented pink softball equipment.
I trust you. Yeah. That's a really good story. So I'm just thinking, do you think that, I don't know, do you think that everyone can make in business in the end?
Yeah, I think anyone can make it in business. If they work hard enough and they stick at it long enough, and if they can figure out how to do it without losing their house, by doing something stupid, by mortgaging their house or something like that. If you're willing to put in the sweat equity. But the real secret, and I've said this a million times, I bet, the real secret to doing your own business is to try, if you can, to do something you have a passion for. Like I had a passion for softball. I coached my daughters. We won 2 state championships here in Texas. We went to nationals and got, I think, 3rd place, 3rd best team in our age group in the country. So we really had a passion for it. We worked hard at it. I had a great bunch of girls. One thing, I had the smartest kids. They all went on to get their masters and stuff. I probably had the smartest softball team out there. But if you've got something that you have a passion for, that you're doing, there's a big difference in something you're just doing. Because anything you do for a living becomes work after a while. Maybe it takes 5 years, maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 10 years, but I don't care what it is. It's going to become work. So if you have a passion for it when you start the business, if you have a passion for that, you'll probably still like it in 5 or 10 years. But if you don't care for it at all, and it's a real hands-on thing, unless you're able to make some kind of business where you don't have any hands-on. But if it's a hands-on business and you don't care for it at all when you start, in about 10 years, you're probably going to hate going to work. You're going to enjoy the money maybe, but you're not going to be looking forward to going to work, where I've enjoyed going to the office, to the store. I call it the office, but it's the store. Every day of my life, I enjoyed going. So that's my tip. If you're trying to find something, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you're trying to find something to start a business in, look at what you really like and what you're really interested in and what really drives you. If you have a hobby or something, look and see how you can make that into a business.
Absolutely. And I think that's true, 100% true. When I started the podcast, now that I have been doing this 2 years, it's like I feel the same excitement that 2 years ago. Like, I think we're also lucky, not just in the field, but I'm talking about if you're passionate, as you said, like if you do what you like, you will go into a rabbit hole. And again, I'm not just talking about a Bitcoin rabbit hole. If it is something that you're really passionate about,
But
you will feel that.
you know that Bitcoin rabbit hole
Uh-huh.
is something people are passionate about. Which is where I'm at right now. That's all my business is Bitcoin. So,
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin rabbit hole really is a perfect business. If you're into Bitcoin, trying to find a business in Bitcoin is a passion that you'll probably still be interested in. I'm sitting maybe 10,000 hours studying Bitcoin, and I'm still just as passionate as I was when I first got in it. So I think it's a great thing to do a business in, because anyone who's in it right now at this stage and has been at any time is passionate about it. You can't help but be.
Every day you're learning something new.
Yeah, always. You could be learning something new that's in the history of Bitcoin from the past that's interesting, or the changing landscape of Bitcoin, how it's changing, which is doing a lot of that. So there's a lot of learning there to keep up with, because this thing is changing like it's on fire.
Absolutely. I also know that I have asked you in the past this because it's the third time here, but if someone is listening for the first time, the podcast, if you can give like a very short, brief highlights of when did you first understand the Bitcoin's value?
Well, I was speaking at a conference over in Dallas about podcasting. It was a marketing conference. And I was speaking at a conference, and I was walking down. I finished my session. I was walking down the hall, and I saw 4 or 5 people I knew, friends I knew. They were all in the hallway talking. So I just went over there to see what was going on, because I knew them all. And one of them was talking about Bitcoin. And I had missed about half the conversation for sure, because he talked about 3 or 4 minutes, and then they broke up, and everybody left. And I don't think any of them have bought Bitcoin to this day. But I said, "Hey, Tony, I missed the first part of that, and I'd like to hear more about it." He had said something that really hit me really quick. Like I said, at the time, I probably had, I don't know if it was 10 or if it was 20. I had a bunch of e-commerce sites at this time. And he said that Bitcoin was the missing protocol for the internet, the protocol for money. And since I had a lot of e-commerce sites, I was interested in a new protocol. So I said, "Tony, can we talk for a few minutes about this?" I missed most of that conversation, and we sat on the couch, and this was like 1 o'clock, and 6 o'clock the conference was ending, and we were still sitting on the couch talking about Bitcoin.
Wow.
So I got in the car, and being a podcaster, I pulled up a podcast about Bitcoin, listened to it on the way home. I got home, I called him up and said, "Are you going to be there tomorrow at the conference?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Could I talk to you some more?" So I drove to the conference, listened to another podcast about Bitcoin. We sat on the couch, talked for about an hour. He took me over to his house, showed me his mining machines. He was mining Zcash, I think, at the time, and then converting that into Bitcoin, because he could mine Zcash with GPU miners, and then he was just immediately converting it to Bitcoin. And so he showed me that setup. He sold me an OpenDime wallet, showed me how to go to Coinbase. I bought some Bitcoin, like just $10 worth, transferred it over there to the wallet, and went home and listened to another podcast on the way home. When I got home, I bought a good amount of Bitcoin, and I've been buying at the high ever since, and at the low. So, but
thank God for podcasts.
Yeah, for sure. It like reinforced what you told me. I'd heard about Bitcoin back when it was way cheaper, back when it was like 100. I was in this guy's office. This is kind of crazy. I'm in this guy's office. I went to go see someone I knew that had an office, and she had workspaces people could rent in her building. And while I was waiting to see her, she was recording a show. I saw this friend of mine, and so I was talking to him, and this guy came in, gave him some money, and he handed him a thumb drive, or what looked like a thumb drive, and the guy left. And I wasn't paying much attention. We were still talking. I mean, we were still talking about podcasting, and another guy came in, like 10 minutes later, and gave him some money, and he gave him a thumb drive, and they talked, and the guy left. I was like, what in the hell's going on here? I mean, It looks like you're selling drugs, but you're handing them thumb drives.
Yeah.
And he said, well, are you familiar with Bitcoin? And I said, no, I'm not. And he said, well, it's like online stocks. And I said, well, I'm not interested in that. And so Bitcoin was around 100 at the time. So now every time I see him, I go, what in the hell? Online stocks? And he says, and he'll say, well, Gary, you're a boomer. I thought you would understand that easier. I said, yeah, I understood online stocks. I didn't want to get involved with messing with that, I have a company that does that for me because I'm no good at online stocks. And so I don't know how much money he costs, having to start in the thousands of dollars instead of the hundreds of dollars. So I give him hell every time I see him.
That's interesting. If you have discovered Bitcoin earlier, will it have changed, how you operate all your businesses or not? Have you ever thought about it?
Yeah, I've never thought about that. Never thought about that at all, matter of fact. But, I did my second time I heard about it. I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Curry. He invented podcasting. Him and I were having lunch or dinner in Austin. And I asked him, because I'd heard him talking about on his show, Bitcoin. I said, it's no secret. He said it on his show, so I guess I can say it. When he did his first show, the first podcast he started back in 2004, someone gave him 33 Bitcoin as a tip.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. But what was it worth at the time? Nothing. It wasn't 2004. I guess it was when Bitcoin first started, but it was the show he started in 2004. And I asked him, I said, do you still have that Bitcoin? Or have you sold that yet? Because I'd heard him talking about it on the show. And he goes, I'm not selling it till it's $1 million. And I was like, right. Right. Which because I knew nothing about Bitcoin, but I knew that you weren't going to have $33 million worth of whatever that was. Now I kind of believe him for sure that it's going to hit $1 million. But that was my second opportunity to dig into it. If I had asked him to explain it more, I'm sure he had spent all evening there explaining it to me, but I didn't. I went on to another subject. Yeah. But I don't know if it would change things much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's cool. I don't know, for business owners that are actually hesitating about integrating Bitcoin, now that you have been also in the financial market, but also with your businesses, but now you have BitBlockBoom and all your efforts are now in Bitcoin. How will you advise them to consider to integrating Bitcoin in their businesses? Cuando dejas tus activos digitales en un exchange o en custodia de alguien más, te expones a riesgos de terceros no deseados. A diferencia del sistema bancario tradicional, Bitcoin te permite tomar el control total de tus fondos utilizando tus propias claves privadas. Esto te permite ser soberano y esencialmente tu propio banco. Al tomar el control de tus Bitcoins, puedes evitar riesgos innecesarios de terceros. Almacenar tus Bitcoin en custodia de terceros como los exchanges puede exponerte a ataques de actores malintencionados, gobiernos o estafadores que lo único que quieren es apoderarse de tu dinero. Las billeteras de hardware aumentan la seguridad de tu billetera porque tus claves privadas se almacenan en un dispositivo especializado que no está siempre conectado al Internet. Como te he dicho antes, mantener tus claves almacenadas en un dispositivo en línea puede exponerte a factores adicionales de ataque, por lo que se recomienda usar una billetera de hardware al almacenar grandes cantidades de Bitcoin durante largos periodos de tiempo. Jade es una billetera de hardware no custodial para Bitcoins y Liquid que ofrece opciones de firma simple y firmas múltiples. Yo personalmente lo utilizo para almacenar mis Bitcoins, ya que me siento mucho más seguro manteniendo mis Bitcoins en una billetera fría que en una almacenada, por ejemplo, en mi teléfono. Si estás pensando en adquirir uno para ti, no olvides utilizar el código de descuento de nuestro show, BitCorner Podcast. De esta forma estarás apoyando directamente el show y además obtendrás un 10% de descuento para la compra de tu billetera fría.
Well, everybody should be accepting Bitcoin, for sure. I mean, that's so easy to use now. You can use Zach Wright with Parker Lewis and Will Cole, and I can't remember the third partner's name. They're working on. That's what I use on my site, but every site should, and every store should accept Bitcoin.
BTC Pay servers or not?
Well, BTC Pay server is fine. I just came up with one. That's great. Rockstar is a great guy and a great coder. So that's a great service. But whatever service you use, I'm not trying to recommend one service over the other. That's just the one that popped in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you should, if you've got an e-commerce store, you definitely need to give people the opportunity to use it. You definitely need, if you have a retail store, you definitely need to have a way to accept it. Because it's like a free savings account. I mean, people are giving you money, putting it into a savings account, which is the fastest growing investment that the history's ever seen. So, and if you're not bullish now, I mean, if you can't see what's happening now, I'm sorry for you, because everything's there for you to see. The main problem with people in Bitcoin is, this is the fastest growing asset we've ever seen. Nothing has ever been like this. The first true money that you can hold, and they see this over and over and over again by now, and they can't spend 10 or 12 hours researching this for something that's going to change the world. I mean, I'm not saying they got to spend 10,000 hours, but they ought to spend 10 hours on this. I mean, if they were to buy a new car, they'd probably spend 10 hours researching it. What kind of car am I going to get? Do I want one that's electric, or do I want one that's gas? Do I want to buy Tesla, or do I want to buy Rivian, or whatever? But
Rivian is great.
Yeah, no, a lot of people like Rivian. But they won't spend 10 hours studying Bitcoin. And especially now, when you have like Fidelity, BlackRock, United States government. Oh my gosh, what else do you have to see? I mean, literally, what else do you have to see to say, but this looks like it's here, to stay? I mean, we're not talking like, half-ass companies and guys in their basements anymore. We're talking about the financial community. I mean, the world's financial community, the world's biggest country. And we're not talking about El Salvador, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking El Salvador. But people go, hey, that's El Salvador. We're talking the United States. I mean, the world's money. Oh my gosh, I don't know what else. I mean, I guess the dollar would have to fall for some people to finally say, I need to spend 10 hours looking at this. And then they probably wouldn't look at it. They just know they have to do it because their money's falling to zero.
Absolutely. Have you seen actually, it just came to my mind that actually today I saw a tweet from Peter Schiff. He's always posting about Bitcoin.
He's got to be the worst financial advisor in history. I mean, really.
Probably.
I mean, he definitely must be.
Today he posted something. I actually have it here, so I'm gonna read it for you and I'm gonna add it. Hopefully I won't forget to add this on the screenshot. But it says like, attention Bitcoiners, you guys are running out of time. Most of you are too young and experienced to recognize what the markets are telling you. The Bitcoin bubble has popped. Real gold is in and digital fool's gold is out. You failed to recognize this shift at your own peril.
When did he post that?
Today, 2 hours ago, actually. I'm going to make a screenshot right now.
So the worst financial advisor in history has told me that I've made a mistake on buying the most limited asset in history. And that I should buy gold, which they've been mining gold like forever. I mean, since before Christ, and they still haven't run out. And now they're talking about asteroids full of gold and mining the bottom of the ocean, which is 75% of the planet. It sounds like there's no limits to that. I mean, sounds like there's no limits at all to gold. So gold, which is a never-ending supply, or something that there's 21 million of, and that's it. I wonder which one of those has a chance on being worth more. I don't know.
Yeah.
And how many years? They had like 16 years to try to hack this? And you know that everybody who's like a master hacker has gone to town on this thing. And they haven't been able to do it yet.
Yeah, they had tried.
It's not like no one's trying. Yeah, they'd hit the gold mine. But the thing is, the only way you could do it is with the 51% attack. And even if you accomplish the 51% attack, you spent so much money that you'd need that money, and you'd have so much money that you made, while mining it, that you'd go, well, let's kill this so I can lose $5 billion over here or something and make my $5 billion worth nothing. And everybody would know you. and it would be out that you'd been buying all these machines for this super attack. So yeah, this is like, I think that Peter Schiff understands Bitcoin. I think he's been
Me too.
I think he's been screwing with this way too long. And that's just his shtick, is like, I'm the gold guy. I'm just going to hammer this Bitcoin all the time. And to the old boomers who don't understand Bitcoin and don't like it, they'll say, man, that Schiff guy, he really gets it. That stuff's terrible. And I think that's his audience. And but literally,
I think he's buying in secret.
Yeah, I think his son's into it. I mean, so his son has said that. So yeah, I think he's secretly buying into it also. But yeah, I'm trying to think who it was that, was it Max that offered him or tried to sell him some Bitcoin at like $5 or something?
Yeah. There
was some cheap amount.
Kaiser.
Yeah, there was something there, and he's like, that's terrible stuff. So you had a chance to get it at $5, and someone that was willing to explain it to you in depth so that you would be able to understand it, and instead you just like hammered against it how bad it was, from $5 to $100,000, and you still haven't seen the light. I mean, you would have to be. I mean, I think even a blind person would see the light by now.
Probably, yeah. And that's absolutely. Also, well, now that we're kind of into macroeconomics, let's dive into the political side of things, because as I said at the beginning of the podcast, there's a lot of things going on there. So we have seen a lot of action recently from both the states and federal levels on Bitcoin. I'm gonna be honest, before I think I didn't tell you, but I interviewed Dennis Porter, and before that I didn't know how politics works in US. So far I still don't know how it works, but I know more than before. But Dennis Porter explained me a bit about the difference between the states and the federal levels. Anyway, he's been pushing hard at the state level to get Bitcoin bills passed right, mostly because to protect self-custody, mining, and the nodes. But how do you see states leading the way on Bitcoin adoption? And do you think that it could eventually force the federal government's hand to act faster? Well, we have seen also Donald Trump that he made a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So I don't know if you have any insights on that or opinions.
Well, the states are moving rapidly on their own. They're not waiting for the federal government. I mean, there's many states that, Texas is one. I think we got a Bitcoin reserve approved in the House. We're waiting on the Senate now, I think, to approve it.
Wow.
And there's many states that are. So I don't know. It's just what you would expect with the way things are going. Everybody's going to own Bitcoin. We got companies, corporations buying Bitcoins now, financial companies. We got regular companies. We got states. We got federal government. I mean, it's like, it's hard to believe people can't see what's coming. I mean, I know I say that I'm a broken record on it, but it truly is. It's hard to, I guess because when I saw it, there was nothing, but you could see where it was going to lead to. And now there's no guessing and no hoping. It's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know Dennis is, yeah, for sure. 16 years now. Dennis is working with states. He's speaking at my conference this year, next month.
Ah, that's cool.
About the state of Bitcoin in the country. And so, yeah, he definitely is involved with that very highly, for sure. I don't know if I have a lot of really intricate or important stuff to say on that. It's got the same thing. It's growing leaps and bounds. And I think the old saying, slowly then suddenly, is happening. That we can see it right before our eyes. More has happened with Bitcoin maybe in the last year than has happened in the previous 15 years. I mean, as far as adoption goes, for sure. So if it keeps it, this is like on steroids. If it keeps at this rate, oh my gosh, by the time Trump's president, he's only been in office 100 days, and look how it's turned around. What's it gonna be like in 4 years? I think it's like Katie bar to the door. You need to hold on for that little roller coaster guy on the way up right now, and I don't think he's going to fall down the roller coaster like he does normally. I think it's just too big now. I mean, what was this dip? 30%? I mean, or dip, compared to normally 70. I mean,
Yeah. Actually, speaking of federal actions that Trump will do and is doing, also you have the Senator Cynthia Lummis, and has been a long time a Bitcoiner, and now she's leading the charge of for the U.S. to acquire, I think, 1 million, right? Bitcoin through the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. So if she pulls this off, what do you think the impact could be there in the U.S. in general?
Well, first of all, that's I think going to give more people. I think maybe some people right now say, "Oh, he's just saying that reserve stuff, and all he's doing is putting some Bitcoin they have in there." But I think if they start actually buying up to $1 million, that's not only going to cause a lot of people to have more faith in Bitcoin and say, maybe I need to get some. Like Satoshi said, you never know what's going to happen. You might want to buy some. But I think it's going to cause other countries to say, if they're not already believing that he's going to do it, to definitely start buying Bitcoin. I think that'll start the race. If we start actually putting in, if that bill passes and we're going to start buying 1 million Bitcoin, I think that could start the global race of purchasing Bitcoin from countries, which is going to be, if you're just in it for the price, then you'll be happy with that. But
I think it's already happening.
Huh?
I think already happening. I have seen news that North Korea is acquiring Bitcoin in large scales.
It's stealing Bitcoin in large scales, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Ethereum stuff that then they converted to Bitcoin,
Yeah. And then you have, what is that country over there south of China that has so much Bitcoin that they're mining it with the hydropower? Bhutan?
I don't know.
They're like number 5 on the list of Bitcoin holding countries.
Hold on, I'm checking out.
Oh, while you pull up this list, I want to talk about this list too.
Hold on, list of Bitcoin holding. Let's see. In the world, I think, no? Nation states.
Yeah, I can't believe I can't think of the name of this country off the top of my head.
I think. Hold on, I think I can even share it. So, countries and governments that own Bitcoin: USA, China, UK, Ukraine, Bhutan.
Yes, it's Bhutan.
Okay.
I mean, so they're
us.
Yeah, they're a little country, but look at that list. Now we've got it up here. Okay, I'm confused. I'm real confused. I'm not trying to be an ass or anything, but how can like, what in the hell is the deal with Ukraine having that much Bitcoin? $3,795,000,000 worth of Bitcoin, and they're not spending it, but they're asking us for more money. Are asking everybody for money, not just us. They just want more money, but they're hodling $3,795,000,000 worth of Bitcoin. That's what it looks like, or maybe it's 785,000. What's the deal with that? How come no one's talking about that? They're wanting more money from anyone they can get it, but instead they're still hodling. I mean, they don't want it that bad, right? Is it kind of weird that they're hodling that much Bitcoin?
Yeah, actually, I had never seen this list, so I'm really shocked. I'm surprised.
Yeah, like I said, I'm real confused on that. No, I don't know why I'm the only person talking about that. It seems to me like that would be zero, to be honest with you. They'd go, so does someone have that in his wallet, and if this whole country falls, they're leaving town with the Bitcoin? And so we're not spending this. I might need this when I leave town. I mean, that's a lot of Bitcoin to be holding if you're in that bad of shape. They shouldn't be, what are they, 1, 2, 3, number 4 on the list of people that are holding Bitcoin? I mean, and where are they getting the money to buy all this Bitcoin if they're in such trouble? I mean, there's something wrong. There really is. I mean, and that's not a little bit of Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, that's 48,000, 46,000? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be beating a dead drum, but there's something weird about that.
No, but it's good that you highlight this because, for example, me, I didn't even know about this list. I know that, as I told you, US, China, and of course us in El Salvador, we have been accumulating Bitcoin.
Like Bhutan, I understand they got all that hydropower over there, and they started setting up miners because they got free electricity. Probably going to make them such a target. China's probably going to come in and grab them. to get all that Bitcoin someday. They probably should have kept that under their hat. You know, but Ukraine, they should have kept it under their hat. But I guess it doesn't matter. You know, no one cares. But that's what I would be saying. I said, hey, we're going to track that wallet, and when you spend that $3 billion, we'll talk about resupplying it.
I also, hold on. I think, where is this? Here. I was just checking. Of course, Marathon, MicroStrategy, Riot, Tesla. So Elon have a lot of Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, he's had that a long time, I think.
No, I thought that he will have sold a bit, but no.
He did sell some of it back in several years ago when they were all giving him crap about Bitcoin being bad for the environment and stuff. He sold some of it and quit accepting it. But I don't think, you know, he used to accept it and quit accepting it. But I don't think he probably sold many cars with Bitcoin. I mean, if you were a Bitcoiner at that time, you weren't wanting to spend, you know, several Bitcoin on a car. I mean, you were probably smart enough to know that wasn't a good deal, you know, to spend several Bitcoin on a car.
See, he says that, he says that when Bitcoin is good for the environment, which it is, he will...
I think, which it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still don't see a guy who's holding a lot of Bitcoin wanting to spend it on a car. You know, I would think,
True.
You know, if you're going to buy a car and you have Bitcoin, you're going to say, let me get a loan for this car because my Bitcoin is going to grow way faster than the interest rate on that loan. I mean, you know, anyone who's got Bitcoin that they can spend that freely, you know, is going to know that. I guess maybe if you got 5,000 of them, you don't care, but I still think you'd go, why would I spend 1 Bitcoin now on a car when I think that car that I just bought will be worth half in 5 years, but Bitcoin could be worth $1 million in 5 years. I think you'd take a loan on that car so that Bitcoin could be going up the whole time, you know, the balance that you have of it.
Absolutely. That will be a way better strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, okay, we have to talk about Dennis Porter and also Cynthia Lemons. Let's talk about Trump. You know, he signed the executive order to officially create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, I don't know. Governments, for me, aren't always the best managing things. We have seen it.
No, you're right.
For example, the Fort Knox team that now they want to audit. So, I don't know. Do you trust the government to get this right? Because, you gave me actually an approach at the beginning that I think it's quite interesting, but I don't know if they're going to do that. That is, they will have shitcoins to sell and then buy more Bitcoin.
Well, that's supposed to be for the shitcoins they confiscate. You know, if they go, I don't know, raid a drug lord's house and he's got 1,000 Ethereum. That goes in the shitcoin reserve so they can sell it to buy more Bitcoin.
So that's actually how it's going to work?
Yeah. They're not going to buy shitcoins. They're going to keep them so they can sell them for Bitcoin. That's from what I understand.
Okay. I didn't know. That's why I wanted to ask you, if you actually trust the government to get this right or eventually they will screw it.
I guess that's just locking down shitcoins and saying you can't just sell those and use the money. We got to have them so we can buy more Bitcoin. Because they're trying to find ways that don't cost the taxpayers money to buy Bitcoin so that no one will be bitching about it. You know, because there's no they won't have a really good argument because there's no money being spent. You know, and he said, didn't say that, but, you know, I saw him speak in Nashville at the Bitcoin conference there, and which he was well received there. This is when he was still running. But he's pretty much been doing all the stuff he said he'd do. He said he was going to start a strategic reserve, which he basically has. He says he was going to put the Bitcoin that the government already owned in it. He said he was going to get rid of Gensler from the SEC, which he's gone. So, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything he said that you could possibly say, well, that's never going to happen. He just made that shit up. To me, it seems like almost everything he said that he's standing behind. Everything he said about Bitcoin at the conference, at least what. So I'm feeling pumped. I don't know what the deal was with the meme coins he made. You know, Trump coin and Melania coin. That was kind of weird. But, you know, I guess you're not going to get a winner all the time on everything. But the positives have outweighed the negatives, I guess, unless you're one of the people who bought the meme coins. Then you're not probably thinking that way. So those meme coins get me. They even call them meme coins. They're like, these are got no value. Buy them from me. I mean, the people who meme coins, I don't understand that at all. Who's buying that?
Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Gary, I have a game, and I usually have this game before we start wrap it up. I just have a couple of questions, if that's
Sure.
okay for you. But also I have this little game that it began like I think in the third season, and people actually loved it. And is that my previous guest have a question for my next guest?
Okay.
So yeah, so it's a snowball effect, and it's actually really good because sometimes we have really interesting insights from everyone, and it's a good way to make network and other Bitcoiners know to each other, and what they do. So I closed the season 3 with Kiki. Kiki is one.
I know Kiki.
This fun. You know Kiki? Okay, awesome. So she was my last guest in the season finale, and she made a question for you.
My question is, what is something that you used to believe about Bitcoin that you no longer believe? What is something that you've changed your mind on?
Wow. I haven't ever thought about that. So something I used to believe that I no longer believe.
You can take your time.
Yeah. Does everybody always have an answer?
Yes.
Well, I can't be the first
pressure.
person.
You can take your time. Have you seen what is the name of this? I forgot. Well, but it's Lex Friedman. Do you see his pace? He's really slow. So
yeah, he is slow. He gets a lot of viewers.
He's really nice.
He gets a lot of viewers, doesn't he? Yeah. I would
exactly.
have to go with something I thought about Bitcoin. Well, I could easily go back to, like we talked about earlier, my first discoveries of Bitcoin, how I thought it was not worth spending any time, if I needed an answer. But I think that's going back too easy of an answer, that I should be able to come up with something more recent after I got started.
Yeah.
Gosh, so many things I believed, I still believe. Huh? What?
Another option that I could give it to you is that I can give you other questions while you think about it, and at the end you can reply.
Okay, and then you
can reply now.
Yeah, because I still believe that Bitcoin's going to change the world. I still believe that Bitcoin someday will be money that will replace the U.S. dollar. It may not happen in my lifetime, but I think it will become the world currency. I still think it's going to be worth millions of dollars. I still think it can't be hacked. I can think of all the things that I still think, but yeah, we may have to come back to that one.
All right.
God.
That's okay. It's a
Kiki, thanks for coming up with a hard one.
Yeah. There are philosophical questions around here. All right, so let's talk about BitBlockBoom. This is one of the leading, definitely, Bitcoin conference. I think it's the longest one because you didn't stop in COVID. I remember you told me that.
It's our 8th year.
What are the key factors? Yeah, so key factors contributed to its success.
Well, I've tried to make Bitcoin BitBlockBoom the kind of conference I would want to go to and do things that make it different than other conferences. I think I enjoy going to the conference, and I've tried to make it. I also tried to make it more like a family reunion type thing, where when the first years of it, people would come that had never met another Bitcoiner. And if you were living in South Dakota, for instance, in the central U.S. where it's cold all the damn time, from what I understand. I've never been there, but if you were from there, you may not know anyone you've ever been able to talk to about Bitcoin in person. But here's a place where you can go, and everybody there has the same beliefs that you do and thinks the same way you do. And the fact that it's only Bitcoin is really, it's a twofold thing. Being only Bitcoin makes it so you're going to talk to people who have your beliefs no matter what. But number two, it really limits us on the sponsors we can have. For instance, I can't have any exchanges, maybe except for River or Swan or something, because the rest of them, 95% of their products are shitcoin. You know, they got 20,000 shitcoins in Bitcoin. I wouldn't call that a Bitcoin company. Or some conferences, as long as you deal in Bitcoin, you qualify to be there. Well, ours is you got to be a Bitcoin company, not a shitcoin company that has Bitcoin. So I would say the experience of being around like-minded people and only like-minded people. Because I used to go to crypto conferences because they'd asked me to come speak, you know, and I was like trying to get the word out about Bitcoin, but it was so sickening being around the people talking about shitcoins all the time that I just quit even doing it, you know, at all. Going to any conference has anything that isn't Bitcoin. So, yeah, I'd say that's it. It's finding what we like, and that again is that I talked about earlier is that niche. We found our niche, and we're dealing it because I'm the king of niches.
Damn. So yeah, and also I told you that Barcelona is launching its own Bitcoin conference. It's called Bitcoin Cypher Conference. This year is going to be the first one. Most of it is self-funded. They have some sponsors, but mostly self-funded. I'm the main media partner with Lunaticoin and some others. So we're helping a lot to them on this conference. So what advice will you give to them to ensure it's a success?
Accept Bitcoin on your web for admission, you know. And you know, to me, it's all about the experience, you know, like we do. You know, like one year we had at one of our parties a rock, scissors, papers tournament. And people just love that. And then we had, the next year we had a Nerf gun duel, you know, like a showdown, you know, like Western draw, you know, showdown with Nerf guns. And, you know, we have a casino night where they win Bitcoin prizes. We have a Bitcoin chess tournament. It's the experiences that are going around. Like it's not just going to the conference. It's doing things that are fun with other Bitcoiners to help build those bonds, you know. So, and when you're sitting at I get casino night at BitBlockBoom casino night, when you're sitting at a blackjack table with 6 other Bitcoiners, you really get to meet some people and you build some friendships, whether you want to. Even if you're a shy person, you're going to be sitting by this guy for a while, so you're going to build some friendships. So I think, like I said, networking events, and that's how I look at BitBlockBoom. It's a networking event. You know, I've always, when I go to the conferences, I really don't spend a lot of time personally watching the people speak. I spend a lot of my time out in the hallway, I always say, meeting people and networking. I've never made any money sitting there watching someone speak. So I get, and you watch it on YouTube later. I remember at the first Miami's, their first Bitcoin conference, when Bitcoin Magazine went from, they were in San Francisco the first year, and then they closed for COVID. Then they reopened in Miami. And I went to that conference, and a lot of people were hanging out in the parking lot at a dome building that Swan was at. And that's where most of the Bitcoiners were, a lot of Bitcoiners. And when Michael Saylor was going to speak, or maybe it was Jack from Strike, everybody was going in to see him speak. I was going, so you going in? I said, no, I'm not going to go in. Next morning, I get up, I go to the conference, take a shower, get a shower, turn on TV, turn it to YouTube, and guess what? There's Michael Saylor. So while I'm dressing and getting ready, having a cup of coffee, I watch Michael Saylor, and I didn't have to waste any networking time. The networking time is too valuable. I didn't fly 1,000 miles or 500 miles or whatever to sit there and just sit in a room and watch live YouTube. I mean, I want to meet people. I want to talk to people. I want to find out what's going on. I want to learn what opportunities there are. Maybe I've made partners in businesses before, you know, at conferences. So to me, you need to set it up so people can network. I don't know. It seems like every conference I go to, I have someone come up to me and tell me how thankful they are to me for having BitBlockBoom because they came and they either met someone who gave them their dream job in Bitcoin, or they met someone who knew someone that put them in touch with them, and but basically they got their dream job working in Bitcoin because they came to BitBlockBoom. And that's the kind of thing you want. That's the kind of thing you want to create. for sure.
Absolutely. That's awesome. All right, guys. I know that you're watching this episode, so take notes. That's so awesome.
When I first started, I did like my friend did. I started mining Zcash and Ethereum with GPU miners and was converting it over to Bitcoin. I never kept any of it, so I never lost any. But I really thought I needed to spend a lot of time studying other things, and know the whole realm of cryptocurrencies. I didn't realize at the time, maybe I did since I was buying Bitcoin, but I don't think sold 100% that I needed to be, that Bitcoin, I knew Bitcoin was the way, but maybe I didn't know Bitcoin was the only one, now, and I can't say when it happened, really. I guess 2017 or so, I realized that Bitcoin was the only way. So that would be my answer, is that, I came to realize I was always trying to get Bitcoin, but I felt like I was spending a lot of time. Now I feel like I spent a lot of time learning about other coins that I didn't need to know anything about. And I was better off learning more about Bitcoin. At least I came up with it.
No, but it's cool. In the end, when we finish the recording, you'll have the opportunity to make a question for my next guest, and I will tell you. I never tell during the recording. I just tell when we finish who's my next guest. And all right, let's start wrap it up. I have just two more questions for you. One is what is the biggest mistake you have ever made in business, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest mistake I've ever made in business. The biggest mistake I ever made was trusting my accountant. Or my bookkeeper, or not even my bookkeeper, my secretary. I had back in, 15 or 2016, maybe, I'm not even sure when it was, back quite a ways now. I had a gal who, we were a small office, and she would enter, the invoices into the computer to be printed, and she'd print the checks for me and bring them over to me to sign. And every Friday I had to sign like 50 checks or something. And she figured out a way to embezzle like $750,000. So that was the biggest mistake I ever made, was allowing myself to get. And she was very clever, very clever. She would have me pay her credit card bills, and she would rename them things that sounded like company names we would do business with. And when the people receive these checks, these credit card companies, they're like, "Who cares? Cash it." So, so that would be. It's a little more detailed than that, but that's like the quickest synopsis of it. In sporting goods, for some reason, I don't know why, you don't pay any of the companies you do business with. Like, you might do business with Wilson Sports and Easton Sports and Mizuno Sports, but you don't pay them. It's the weirdest thing. You pay factor companies. These are companies that, like, actually you send a check to this company, and it could be, Atomic Factor Company. And then Atomic takes care of the stuff past that stage. I don't know how that works, but I know you don't pay them. So, like, she would rename American Express to Amex, or not even Amex, some weird name. Oh, like Discovery Card was Discover. And I go, when the hell is this Discover? She goes, well, Easton Sports is not longer using Atomic Factoring Company. They're using Discover Factor. I go, okay. And I'd known her. She'd been with me for like 10 years. We'd had her at the house for Thanksgiving, had baby showers for her. So, we pretty much trusted her. I mean, and she was embezzling money over the years. And it was kind of my own fault. Her husband worked at a hardware store, and they were always traveling to Hawaii and stuff. And so, man, I can't believe, because I knew what she made. I was going, I can't believe he makes that much working at Home Depot as a manager to be able to do all this traveling. I'm not even doing that much traveling. And he obviously he couldn't, so trusting, not being, I'm just too trusting of a person, I guess. But, I did find being open about that and talking about that, because I've talked to a ton of people about it. I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, I think a lot of people are embarrassed to talk about it because it makes them feel like they're scared. It makes them look like they're stupid, that they allowed that to happen. And since I'm open about it, I'm open about everything. I have met so many people that were entrepreneurs that have had money embezzled. It's way more frequent than you have any idea. And when I open up about it, they're going, "Oh yeah, I never thought about it, but I had 2.5 million embezzled, or I had 50,000 embezzled, or whatever the number is." So it's much more frequent than you thought. And just so everybody knows, I did get back, maybe it was like 750,000, and I got back like 700,000, of it. I'm very fortunate, though. Her father-in-law was a rich person in Chicago. I don't know what he did, but he had a lot of money, and he did not want his grandkid's mom going to prison. So he hired an attorney to contact me to try to settle it for as little as they could. That was the attorney. And the attorney admitted, he called me down the street. I was driving down the street, and this is crazy. He goes, I'm Joe Blow attorney. I said, okay, what can I do for you? He goes, well, I want to talk to you about the embezzlement case of Susie Q. And I go, okay. And he goes, well, I call it embezzlement because that's what it is. Let's just be frank about it here. And I said, well, I appreciate your honesty. He goes, that's all I do is embezzlement cases. And I can tell you two things right now. This was pretty good, and I think he was 100% right. They have no idea how much they embezzle. It's not like they're tracking it or anything. He goes, they will have no idea of how much money they took from you. And the second thing I can tell you is they will have pissed it all away. It's not like they invested or buy a house with it. They'll have pissed it all away. And he was right. Yeah. They had no idea how much they took from us, and they had pissed it all away because we got the, in Discovery, we got all their not receipts, but their statements from American Express, from Discovery, from Visa, whoever. And we went through them, and oh my gosh, it was just piss money away, piss money away, piss money away, all of it. So that's two things I can tell you. If you ever get embezzled, they won't know how much they did, and they will piss it all away. There may be an exception to the rule, but it's the exception. So that's the thing that, that was my biggest mistake.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm asking about this because I just realized now that I have been doing the podcast 2 years that I know people that actually, thanks to this space, I can meet. And I think one of the things that we're so focused on Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin space and the Bitcoin podcast, is about Bitcoin, the technical part, the historical part. But I think that one of the things that, while I was reviewing some of my podcasts and thinking about brainstorming about what else can I do, is like, damn, here are people that they have powerful story, life lessons, and I should ask them about that. That's why I made you all these questions, because I think it's really good to know, because as you said, while we were starting to record, that people give up too soon and they don't give it a try, because let's admit it, people are afraid to fail, right? But it's part of the process. So
I think they are. I've had so many things that I tried starting up that didn't work, that it doesn't face me at all. Yeah, but then again, though, now at 70, I'm probably not going to start up anything new that I have to do. Really, I've gotten to the point I don't like working that much. So the conference is plenty for me to do, and I can just work on it a little all year. A little here, a little there.
Yeah, no, and it's super good. The conference, that's nice. And all right, my last question is that what's one lesson about money that do you think banks don't want people to know?
That it's not your money once you put it in the bank. That it's not yours. I mean, during COVID, we went to the bank. I told my wife, I said, you may want to run to the bank and get like $8,000 out, just so that we have some cash. It seemed like a prudent thing to do. And she went to the bank and said, I want to get out 8,000. They said, well, you can only have 3,000. She says, what are you talking about? Well, that's all you can have today is $3,000. She goes, but, and I wasn't surprised when my wife told me this, but my wife was really having a hard time with this. I think she was there half an hour arguing, I want my $8,000. And they said, here's the deal. You can have 3,000. That's it. You come back tomorrow, you can try again. Might still be 3,000, might be less, but you can have 3,000 today. So basically, that's not your money in the bank. It's their money once you put it in there, and they can give it back to you if they want. So just know that it's not yours.
Yeah, it's not your money. If you have money in your bank, it's not yours.
No, it's not yours. You're just you've given it to them, and they're saying they're going to give it back if they can.
Yeah, actually, that Kiki gave me a really. She's not this. She didn't say this. I think it was Ronnie from the Bitcoin hardware store in El Salvador, but he told her something like, and super super interesting that it says like when you buy a house or when you buy a car, you don't give the keys of your car or your house to someone else, and you don't ask to permission to go inside your car or your house every single time. So why do you do that with your money?
Yeah. People are weird with it, and you don't. And Bitcoin opens your eyes up to these things. These things have always been there, but I didn't know. I didn't.
Exactly.
I didn't even know what the word fiat meant. Before Bitcoin. So Bitcoin really, we call it a rabbit hole, whatever, but it's really causes you to gain an education in something that you spend a large amount of your life trying to acquire. So people spend most of their life working, trying to save money, but they really aren't very educated, the average person, on what money is, what banks are. They don't even know the Fed. They think the Fed's owned by the federal government. I think we froze there for a minute.
Yeah, froze for a minute, but now I think you're back. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. And Gary, it's always a pleasure having you on Bitcoiner, and thanks for sharing your wisdom as usual.
Enjoyed it completely. Nice seeing you. I'm sure I'll see you within the next couple of years when I'm back in Barcelona, or maybe it'll be El Salvador. We'll run into each other again.
Yeah, actually, BitBlockBoom definitely is on my list. Guys, you can get a discount. I'll put my discount code because BitBlockBoom is also a partner of the podcast, so you'll have a discount there. And yeah, we'll see there or El Salvador, Barcelona. We have a lot of excuses. Actually, it will be a great idea to have a Bitcoin podcast with you and Max Kaiser.
Yeah,
El Salvador. That will be awesome.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. A new season, you'll see new episodes, new insights, some regular guests, new guests. But yeah, exciting time, new season. So see you next week. Ciao.